What's up, everybody? This is Rukia Hadassah, just coming at you today to share a very brief, quick message for black people, my people. And this is tied into the current election that's going on, and a certain candidate by the name of Mike Bloomberg. And noticing in the media lately, gaining momentum with black voters, yada yada. Don't know, don't care, I don't vote. But information that came out about Mike Bloomberg last week was very impactful to me for different reasons other than the election. I'm watching a certain demographic of people who continue to show up at the origins of our oppression. And that is the reason I want to come and speak with you today. Black people, it's time to wake up. We cannot be this knocked out right now. We can't be this unconscious to not realize that there are nefarious plans and diabolical people who are going to extreme lengths to make sure that they remain wealthy and satisfied off of the backs and suffering of black people. And it is my belief that Mike Bloomberg is one of those people that has caused a lot of black people suffering. Let me show you why. I'm not real sure what it's going to take for us to realize that Mike Bloomberg is not your friend. Bloomberg's brutal reign of terror in New York City may have had an even more diabolical agenda than just stop and frisk and this whole I'm just trying to stop crime. I think it's deeper than we realize, and it's time for us to pay closer attention. Now, how soon do we forget this previous president by the name of Bill Clinton? Does this look familiar to you? This is Bill Clinton as a Democratic candidate for presidency. And he's standing, you probably haven't even seen this picture very much, if you've ever seen it at all, but he's standing in front of Stone Mountain, Georgia, in front of a Confederate monument. He's speaking to a bunch of rich, white, racist donors and promising that he would be tough on crime while he's using live, shackled inmates as props for his political aspirations. He delivered on that promise. As we all know, maybe we don't all know, some of us are still lock in step with Bill Clinton, as we can see by his appearance at Aretha Franklin's funeral. Okay, maybe so, maybe no. Maybe some of us are up on the Clinton game, but he delivered on his promise, and we all know what happened with mass incarceration after that. Now, I ask you, what do you really know about Mike Bloomberg? What do you know about him? See, while Mike Bloomberg was ordering the NYPD to go and snatch and grab every black and brown person in sight, treating them like potential criminals, he was palling around and jetting around with Jeffrey Epstein. Jeffrey Epstein, yeah. That Jeffrey Epstein. the single most dangerous sexual predator in this nation's history. Where were the cops then? Where was his big NYPD anti-crime force? He wasn't too worried about crime while he was jetting around with Epstein, this dangerous sexual predator. Or when he was hanging out with Epstein's girlfriend, Ghislaine Maxwell, who, by the way, is a fugitive from justice at this point, can't be found. No one knows where she is. But yeah, so these are his buddies, as you can see. These are the people he found to be good company, while black men and brown men just walking the street trying to make a living, trying to get to where they're going, they get hassled and roughed up by the cops. So that, at least that gives you some type of reference to where Bloomberg's mindset really was on crime. Obviously, he didn't care about their crimes. Why won't he release his financial records until after the primary? Why won't he tell us how he made his millions? I'm sorry. Correction. Billions. Maybe it has something to do with, in a politician's mind, crime equals black people. Incarcerated black people equals slavery. And slavery, then and now, is big business. Is that how he made his billions? We certainly have enough common knowledge and public information to know that Bloomberg is a Jew and he has billions of dollars. And most of the money that is made, has been made by Jews in this country, simply came from slavery, enslaving people, enslaving my people. So, how do you, are you willing to just pump your brakes just a minute and let this man give you anything as a valid response to confirm what you know about this man? The 13th Amendment abolishes slavery only if there has not been a crime committed. That's the loophole. We've all seen it there all these years. They've been using it all these years to continue slavery legally. Slavery is not abolished. It is only abolished if you are not a criminal. So, in order to continue slavery, you must find criminals. You must criminalize the people you want to enslave. That's the game. That's the hustle. That's what we're living in. That's why everybody else continues to gain wealth. And we continue, despite our talents, our gifts, our abilities, our inventions, our everything. We built America. We didn't just come over here and pick cotton. We did many jobs. We created a workforce in this country unrivaled by any other modern country. We still do. And at any given time, as we've seen, when they're ready to pluck you up out of that, they can and they will. So that sounds like slavery to me. And we cannot ignore the fact that Jews like Mike Bloomberg and his ancestors have been heavily involved in the slaving of our people. They've been heavily involved by chartering slave ships, bringing them here and putting them up on auction blocks at their auction houses. Wall Street was started by the auctioning and rental of slaves. It really was. You've got to know this. And every person who doesn't realize that every major bank in this country was founded by the so-called Jews, and that every one of those banks started by financing slaves to farmers and plantation owners and construction companies and labor companies. Back then, it just didn't even appear that we had a choice. So now we're starting to see this eruption of a variety of private prisons that are popping up all over the country in the wake of the slavery being so-called abolished after the 13th Amendment. But now we're seeing private prisons. And all you have to do to fill them is put in black and brown bodies. That's why one of the largest, if not the largest, private prison system, business, corporation, whatever you want to call it, in the country is operating. I don't know how many facilities they have, but they're operating these facilities all over the country. And you see a concentration of these facilities in areas around the southern border and around large cities with large black populations. That's what you see. And you trace all of the money and everything back to the owners. You have to do that research. Go back and research it and see what you find. See who's at the end of that yellow brick road. It's not going to be one of us. It's not going to be the candy man. It's them. And it's just time to call it out. It's time to call it out. This is not something you just do. This isn't something that just happens overnight. This is an industry. The private prison industrial complex is an industry that makes its money off of the criminalization of black people. Now, where there's smoke, there's fire. So considering that Jews chartered the slave ships that brought our ancestors to this country in chains, they owned the auction houses that sold and traded slaves, started Wall Street and the entire global economy with slaves. Nearly every major banking institution in this country is run by Jews, which is why every major banking institution today has a very long, sordid history and its foundations in slavery. You can look them up. You can look them up. Whenever you're ready. Look them up. It's out there. Go look up Wells Fargo. Go look up Lehman Brothers. Look it all up. I'm not going to sit here and name them. You have to do your own research. Just like I did. It's out there. It's a Google search. Just like the gentleman Benjamin Dixon, who found the recordings of him, of Bloomberg explaining stop and frisk. It's out there. We're the ones who are choosing to ignore it because we want to keep this fantasy world of America in our heads. America ain't what you think it is. It ain't what you're trying to think it is. It's not gonna serve you to keep trying to fit into an institution that is literally set up to either enslave or destroy you. And until you want your freedom, you are a slave. You were born to be a slave if you continue listening to a man like Bloomberg and offering him your support. It's just time to wake up. It's time. When you look at this corporation, Core Civic, and you see all of the facilities that they run nationally, normally, just from my take, you got one facility or so around a major city. Well, excuse me, and this is what kind of gave it away for me. When Mike Bloomberg was mayor, there were 5 Core Civic, and that, to my understanding, there still are Core Civic facilities in the entire state of New York. 5. 3 of those facilities are located in and around New York City alone. 3 facilities operating around New York City. Oh my gosh. This has to resonate with someone. It's like they were just set up as people mills. And let us not forget that, you know, if you have any additional questions about Mike Bloomberg and his fascination with stop and frisk and his love for introducing black and brown people to the criminal justice system, consider the fact that Mike Bloomberg's campaign was using prison labor to make phone calls for his campaign. Now, someone caught it, found out, told him about it, and he goes, "Oh, I didn't know. And they reportedly stopped. So they say. But if I know anything about how these people operate, he found another loophole to go through to make it possible for him to use prison labor. Stopping and frisking millions of black people in the name of crime fighting seems like a good option. But Bloomberg clearly was not fighting crime with his stop and frisk policy, or else he would have had Epstein and Maxwell arrested on sight. Maybe his motive for stopping and frisking more than 10 times the amount stopped by his predecessor Rudy Giuliani was driven by the fact that he needed bodies for all of those core civic facilities around his city. Folks, slavery is alive and kicking. Slavery is big business. It's even bigger than it was when our ancestors were brought here in chains. They just have a completely different experience than we did with it. But slavery is still, in fact, big business in America. And we are that business. Our children are that business. And it's not going to change. This is why it is laughable to me that anyone should be asking for reparations while we're still enslaved, while we're still in their grasp, while we're still experiencing the very evils that our ancestors did, just in a different way. Same evil. They've just found a different way to package it, as they always do, our oppressors. But it's past time, family. It's past time for us to wake up. It's past time for us to take these chains off of our minds. If none of this flies with you, it's because you are one of those slaves. You want to be a slave. You want to be indebted to these people because you don't know what you're going to do otherwise. But I have news for you. As the children of Israel, the true children of Israel, we have an option that they don't. If you haven't noticed, they're running out of options. With all of the waste and the plagues and the pestilences and everything that's taking place in this entire world, it is time for my people to understand this is about you. You are the children of Israel. What? You don't find it interesting that the same plagues that took place in Egypt are taking place exponentially around the world? Well, at the level that many of us are in this world right now and in this country as slaves, people that are welcoming and admiring and respecting Mike Bloomberg as an actual presidential candidate, which, like I say, I'm not political. Don't give a hoot about who anybody picks for president. I care about my people, and I care about waking us up. So, it's time for us to understand that there's a plan that counters this plan. And it's found in the Bible. It's found in Holy Scriptures. And if you ever take time to read it, you'll figure out this thing is getting flipped. This thing is switching. We are the ones who have created the wealth that these nations have taken advantage of. Not just America. Many nations have taken advantage of us, either directly or indirectly, and they must pay the price. And if you're ready to receive your reward that comes at the end, prophetically at the end of 400 years of slavery and mistreatment, according to Acts chapter 7, verses 6 through 7. It's time for you to wake up. This thing is almost over for them, but it's just beginning for us. See, Esau is the end of things. It's the end of this world, and Jacob is the beginning of that which is to come. Unless you know who Jacob is and who Esau is and all the rest of these nations, or at least have some understanding biblically how that lines up, then you're not going to be restored. You're not going to experience the benefit of restoration for 400 years. I don't want my children and grandchildren going through this for generations to come. I want it to be over, and you should too. So family, this is where we get off. Please start looking, start researching. I've given a ton of links down below. You can look at them. Go do your research. Start there and see where it takes you. This information is common public knowledge. Use it to your benefit so that they don't continue to use us to their benefit. Rise up, Judah. Wake up. It's time to go.